Andre Onana to Trabzonspor. Here we go. The former, we can now say former Manchester United #1 will join the Turkish outfit. Plus, we're looking at ruthless Liverpool. The window may have closed, but their ruthless nature in the market hasn't stopped when it comes to Crystal Palace and Mark Guehi. You have got to hear this massive update. Plus, massively positive news. Yes, William Saliba is out injured for Arsenal, but a new deal for the French centre-back beckons in North London. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribing. This is the Done Deal Show. Let's do it. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Get like buttons hit. Make sure you are subscribing. And very importantly, get that bell notification turned on as well. Andre Onana has agreed to join I want to say, if I'm pronouncing this wrong, please tell me. Trabzonspor. If I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. Here we go. It's announced. Fabrizio Romano here says all contracts are now signed on the players' side, awaiting on counter approval from this Turkish team, and will travel next week. Of course, it's international break at this particular moment in time. It says the deal done on a loan from Manchester United, as revealed on Saturday. No buy option or loan fee at this point. What's very interesting is I've seen a few people quote this and kind of say that I don't quite understand it, because the next bit of information was quite interesting. And that is that Andre Onana has now signed his contract. He says, as revealed earlier, this is from Ben Jacobs, Onana gave his green light on the move. Formalization from all sides expected within 24 hours. Exclusive detail. This is from Ben Jacobs. Onana will earn more money than at Manchester United due to the sign-on and bonuses offered in Turkey. Now, some are saying, hang on a minute, how come we're not getting a fee? How come there isn't an option to buy, but the player is suddenly earning more money? Well, that's no concern of ours. Yes, it would have been nice to have got a loan fee. Absolutely would have been. But what we are getting is all of the costs of the player covered. So the club are going to save the better part of £6 million this year in salaries, which will go back into our coffers, which will go back towards buying other players in future. So, look, it isn't the greatest deal of all time. It's nowhere near the worst deal that Manchester United have done. But more importantly, it shows a ruthless nature, and a ruthless nature that we just haven't had for such a long time at Manchester United. And this is the truth. Whether people like hearing this or not, that's 6 players out. On the United stand earlier on this summer, or maybe it was back end of the season, but it was right near the beginning of the transfer window. One of the questions that was posed is, how many players do you think will leave? I said I felt conservatively it would be at least 5, but I said we could probably get, with the free transfers and people moving on, I was quite comfortable that we would get somewhere close to 9 or 10, and it was laughed at. And there are no guarantees that we're going to be fixed as a football club, that we're going to get back to the top. But we've now seen Garnacho go, Anthony, Rasmus, Lindelof, Rashford. We've obviously seen Sancho go out. Johnny Evans left. Eriksen was moved on. Onana's now been added to the list. There's 9 there. There's 9 players on that list. There's some youngsters that have also gone out on loan, Collier, Wheatley, but I don't think, and Amas, I don't think they were necessarily on the kind of chopping block, as it were. So I do look at this and think to myself, we've done a pretty good job, considering most of the players that we wanted to move on were in this bomb squad on exceedingly high money for players of their quality. They only wanted one club themselves, so it dragged on all summer. I would expect next season it to be even more of the dead wood and the players that are not good enough moving on. But it's one of those things which I'm glad to see the club moving players on that have not been good enough, especially the Onanas and Rasmus Højlunds, who they've been at the club 2 years, haven't delivered, bang, you're moving on. Now, we can't quite do that with all the failures that have been here 2 to 3 years, because there's actually a lot of failures that have been here 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Those are problematic players we have to focus on first. But I think it shows the potential, and I'm saying the word potential here so none of the babies at the back cry, of a slightly new world for Manchester United. But look, I wish Onana all the best. I have no personal problem with him. I hope he kills it. I hope we can get a good fee for him next summer, and all parties can move on, that we've got a better goalie. I hope he loves it in Turkey and kills it. But that deal is done, dusted, and will complete. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinions in the comment section below, people. Next, I want to talk a bit about William Saliba. Big update that got sent my way earlier on today is in relation to a new deal at Arsenal. Yes, he's going to be out for a few weeks with an injury. But this update got sent to me here that said William Saliba is hopeful that a full and final offer will be made by Arsenal imminently for a new contract. It says the defender is going into the final 2 years of his contract. There is a report of an option to extend, but the final 2 years of his current contract. His centre-back partner, Gabriel, has already committed his future to the club. Arsenal are confident of securing a new deal for the centre-back, along with Bukayo Saka as well. The summer, the club predominantly focus on bringing in new talent and, as it says here, has gone to the likes of Hankepe and Mosquera as cover and potential replacements for Saliba, but are still pushing for the Frenchman to sign a new deal. And I spoke about this earlier on the live show, that I don't think William Saliba being out for a few weeks is actually a bad thing for Arsenal. I think it will demonstrate to everybody how good Mosquera is. I think he's going to be an absolutely sensational signing for Arsenal Football Club. I truly do. That being said, securing a new deal for William Saliba is massive. On a footballing front, it's one of those moments where you could do the cliched, it's William Saliba. William Saliba is William Saliba. Does it need analysis? Does it need a breakdown? But I'll give you my thoughts. This is one of the best young centre-backs in European football. I think he's been, by and large, sensational for the past 2 to 3 seasons. Still looks a little bit wet behind the ears when he plays without Gabriel. But he's now hitting that peak period of his career. 24 years old. He's no longer a baby. He's no longer a kid. He's no longer too young. You know, he's been in the first team now for 3 years, 27 games in the league. I think he played 38 games in the 23-24 season, 35 last year. I know he's going to be out for a few weeks now, but his availability has been absolutely sensational. 250 games in his career already and going on to new heights. His anticipation, his reading of the game is brilliant. His positioning is amazing. He has that recovery speed. He's a wonderful technician on the ball. Everything you would want from a modern day centre back. In fact, he's the type of centre back that would have cut it in the noughties and in the 90s as well, because I think he has every component required. So on a footballing sense, fantastic. Well done to Arsenal if they get that new deal done. From a business standpoint, it also makes a huge amount of sense. This player is very valuable, but if he doesn't sign a new deal, Arsenal will need to cash in January or in the summer. And the reason why I say that is because next summer, he goes into the final year of his contract. And any hopes of 70, 80 million pounds for him will dissipate, will move on. So I do think it's a deal that Arsenal need to sort of look at. And by November, by December, either have to be ready for the player to trigger that extension of his contract, or they look to move him on. Because if they do get the new deal, what it does, it secures the asset. And I know there's a lot of football fans that care very little for the financial side of the game, but you have to. And one thing that I feel Arsenal, along with my club, Man United, must add into their wheelhouse is being better at selling players, especially when it's your stars. If one of your stars wants to go, get them on those new deals, cash in on them when you can, bring in those 70, 80, 90 millions for your top defenders, those 80, 90, 100 millions for your top midfielders, there's 100 million pluses for your top attackers. Cash in on them, invest that money like the Liverpools of this world do, the Chelseas, the Cities do, on new players, keeping your team growing. It's important to do it. So look, I think this is a real positive story for Arsenal fans, but give me your thoughts and give me your opinions in the comment section below. Now, speaking of ruthlessness and being a fantastic seller, as it were, I saw this story earlier on today. I was actually out walking my dog and I laughed. I shouldn't. I should hate it, but I did laugh. Not because I've got any animosity towards Crystal Palace, but it made me laugh from the perspective that Liverpool are just so ruthless. I'm almost at a point where I can't hate on it. I think it's easier and healthier to just accept it. Paul Joyce, who is an exceedingly credible transfer journalist when it comes to Liverpool, let alone transfers. Word to anyone that doesn't support Liverpool and doesn't know who he is. If Liverpool are linked to a player and Paul Joyce plays it down and says he hasn't heard anything, he doesn't think it's true, that deal ain't happening. Paul Joyce says very little chance this deal happens. There's a little interest, but Liverpool not pursuing it. I don't care what Fabrizio and Ornstein say. If Joyce is playing it down, it's over. It's done. It's like The Sopranos. It's over. It ain't coming back. So when he says this, I take it almost like the gospel truth. And he states here that Liverpool will not, I repeat, will not revisit their interest in Mark Guehi in January and would only now sign the Crystal Palace centre-back on a free next summer. And I know there'll be a footballing side of people going, oh, they might need him, though. They might have a big hole. They might need him. I get it. I do get it. Imagine they have a centre-back problem. They don't spend 20, 30 million on him and they don't win the league. And in the short term, some will say that's crazy, that's silly, that's stupid. And I get the challenge. I understand it. It holds water. There's validity to it. But the ruthless nature that Liverpool demonstrate in the transfer market is why they typically get such good deals. Now, I'm not saying Palace themselves will be bullied in this scenario to offer him to Liverpool for £5 million in January. But I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar to that happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Palace have their replacement lined up and they could get it done in January. I wouldn't be surprised if Palace knock on Liverpool's door and say, listen, how about 10 mil? How about 15 mil? And if Liverpool are in no desperate need for him during the season, they'll probably just say no. So there's always a chance for Liverpool to revisit it. And this is where Crystal Palace, listen, they may go on to win the Conference League and not care one little bit, the fans, that is. But the football club directly, internally, in the boardroom may. But this is also why Liverpool get good deals. Because what this will do next time round, that Liverpool are in a very similar situation to they were with Guehi, the selling club may turn around to their manager next time round and go, look, I understand you want the player. We don't have a replacement. But this is 35, this is £40 million that we need to reinvest. In fact, you're already selling him under his valuation. I think Mark Guehi, at the level that he's currently at, with 3 or 4 years left on his contract, is a 60, 70 million pound player. They're already letting him go at a cost price. In fact, they're going to let him go for nothing. And from the boardroom level, that's catastrophic. From a Liverpool point of view, it just shows their ruthlessness. And even if they make a mistake, Liverpool, what I respect about them is they just don't budge. Their poker face is so stern and so direct. It's why invariably they come out on top in their negotiations. As ever, look, I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your opinion on these stories on this Sunday afternoon. A little bit of a quiet weekend from the terrace, so not as many streams as normal. But look, it's the international break. I know everybody's chilling, including ourselves. Things are going to pick up massively next week, though, with the EPL returning. So do me a favor, please, and hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Turn the bell notification button on as well, please, my people. And we'll see you soon. Peace.